Hi, I'm Andy Rosenkrantz, Editor-in-Chief of AJR, and I'm here today with Dr. Tim Szczykutowicz, Associate Professor of Radiology at University of Wisconsin, and he'll be discussing with us his recently published AJR article on deep silicon photon counting detector CT and CT numbers. Dr. Szczykutowicz, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rosenkrantz, for having me, and thank you to your editorial team and journal staff for processing and publishing our article.
To start us off, what was the key issue that you were trying to address in this study?
Yeah, I think we all believe when we want the CT scanner to be a very quantitative machine, but a lot of radiologists, they might put an ROI on a lesion or tumor, and they don't know if they can trust that number because they know it changes so much patient to patient with contrast uptake, with patient size, etc. So really the root of our study was how can we make CT a more reliable machine at providing quantitative information to the radiologist.
Now let's turn to the study at hand. Can you summarize for us what you did in terms of overall design and methods?
Yeah, so we're really well aware that with changes in patient size, we see changes in CT number. In other words, if you had five different patients, five different patient sizes, and they all say, let's just say hypothetically swallowed something that was the exact same object, and we measured the CT number, you'd get five different values of that CT number. That's not good. So we had a phantom that had five different sizes with the exact same inserts, and we imaged it on a prototype photon counting scanner that utilized a deep silicon detector. And then we imaged it on regular 120 kV, and we imaged it with a dual energy CT acquisition.
And what did you find in terms of variation in CT numbers with object size?
Yeah, we found exciting results. What one would want from the latest and greatest, technology, this photon counting, we found that with size, the photon counting, the deep silicon photon counting scanner, it had a more accurate CT number with size. In other words, we plotted the slopes or the change of the CT number with size, and those slopes were unfortunately they weren't zero, right? There was some change with deep silicon, but that change was smaller compared to existing energy integrating technology, 120 kV, and the dual energy mode that we compared to.
And now you also looked at CT number accuracy. What did you find in that analysis?
Yeah, that was another one where we were happy what we saw. So we computed the ideal CT number for all the materials we had, and we compared it to those three acquisition modes. And again, the deep silicon photon counting scanner came out always for all the conditions we looked at, providing a more accurate CT number for those inserts.
And now, what is the key reason that you would give for the observed better performance of the photon counting scanner?
Yeah, so today and throughout all of the history of CT, you image different size patient, even if you have the same starting or acquisition beam energy, KV, right? Like 80, 100, 120, 100. But at the actual detector, that energy is always going to be different because patients attenuate that beam differently. And basically, on energy integrating, you kind of have to guess in most cases, an educated guess, right? Many PhD theses worth of educated guessing what that effective energy is. Whereas with deep silicon photon counting, and really should be with any photon counting technology, we're not guessing or using algorithms to predict it. We're directly measuring the energy of each photon. And since Hounsfield number is related to energy, we should be doing a better job than since we're actually measuring the energy at reconstructing a reliable CT number. So that's the big key difference here.
In the article, you highlight how you used this deep silicon photon counting scanner. Can you tell us more about that scanner and how it compares with current commercial photon counting CT models?
Sure. So we had a prototype scanner from a particular vendor that's not FDA cleared to be marketed and so forth. It uses a deep silicon, like you said, single X-ray tube, single source. Our particular prototype at the University of Wisconsin can image head to toe volumetric imaging. It's got a 4 centimeter detector can go down to like 0.28 second rotation time. We could do cardiac, etc. So that's what we have currently as a prototype. The FDA cleared, there's a few vendors actually that I'm aware of around the globe that have, one vendor in Japan has a few scanners that are regulatory approved there. In the United States, we've got a niche head scanner vendor, but there's a big a vendor that has an approved scanner that uses a cadmium telluride detector. So that's the fundamental difference really between our prototype and the most common one in the United States. It's FDA cleared for whole body diagnostic radiology that uses a cadmium telluride detector. That's the main difference.
Based on the findings of the study, what do you recommend for clinical practice?
I think if you're looking at a vendor that maybe is a third-party vendor looking at better ways to augment your workflow as a radiologist, like you click on an organ and it measures volumes and CT numbers. I think we're collecting a lot of good data when radiologists are doing things like that. And I think in the future, we're going to have more augmented workflows for radiologists that need better quantification that you can trust more, so that you guys as radiologists can be presented with reports that you didn't have to calculate any numbers for. Whereas today, some of those thresholds for various tumors and things, like they have really large bounds because of the large variation that we see in clinical practice. So yeah, I think the key impact on clinical practice that is being developed right now, how we're going to use this more accurate quantitative information. I don't see maybe having an immediate impact today, but it's definitely setting us up for that in the future.
Any key limitations of the study to highlight?
Yeah, I would have always liked to do more. So we didn't look at some of the material basis maps that you can do. So those familiar with dual energy CT would know about this, right? You can do like an iodine water type of a basis map. We didn't look at that, and that is quite common, and a ton of research being done there for different like iodine uptake or blood uptake in various tumors to characterize that. So that was one thing that we're working on. I would have loved to include, in the present study.
And any final takeaway for our audience?
Yeah. If you're interested in trusting CT number more, I'd say for sure one thing you can do now is just make sure your beam energy is the same, right? And if you're comparing a current patient with a prior, make sure that there's no main difference there in beam energy. But I think it's time to start thinking down the road where we're not going to be so tied down to acquisition beam energy, because with these photon counting scanners, we're probably going to see more use of just single beam energy everywhere. So yeah, my final takeaway would be, I think there are some real technological changes happening in CT that you should be aware of, and that I think we will see impacting clinical practice.
Dr. Szczykutowicz, I really appreciate your coming here and sharing your insights with us.
Yeah, thanks again, Dr. Rosenkrantz and the rest of the team at AJR. This has been great. Thanks.